because I'm not looking at that. So you tell me if I need to make any adjustments.
I definitely will.
All right.
And I will say, smile when you start, especially when you say your own name.
That's tip. See, it's stuff like that I'm trying to get my mouse over to where my notes are. Here we go. That's right eye level.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Posture good enough?
Yeah.
All right, good. Should I say good afternoon, or should I just say hello?
Yeah. Hello.
Okay.
I'm James.
Okay. Hello, my name is James Wilder. I'm the corporate director for IT at S&S Tire. All right. So from there.
Yep. And then I would say, let's go with the purpose of today's video is to introduce the CLT to.
The purpose of the video today is to introduce CLT to the digital future and potential. See, I don't know if that's the right way to say that. Purpose of the video today is to introduce the core leadership team to.
Do you want me to go back to the prompter and just write it out? It's very quick to do it that way.
Yeah, not exactly sure. I guess that's what I'm trying to think of. What's the best way to say it?
So for Jared and for BQ, my direction to them was just to introduce it by saying, in today's video, we're going to talk about the purpose of, or in today's video, I'm going to introduce you as the CLT leaders to the vision for our digital future at S&S Tire.
Okay.
And if you want to leave that as a blank statement and give it some bookends so that we can edit it together, that works pretty good too.
All right. The purpose of the video today is to introduce CLT to the vision for the digital future at S&S Tire. We'd like to discuss the components of the digital future, and in particular, the love.
To start at I'd like to discuss the components.
Yeah. What's the purpose of the vision? I think I'll start back at the top again.
Okay.
The purpose of the video today is to introduce CLT to the digital future and landscape for S&S Tire. To talk about the various components of that digital future, blah, blah, blah.
And those are okay. Those are human. Like I had a professor who always was like, don't get caught up on your ums or mispronounced things.
Yeah.
I think that's very human.
Get my tongue tied.
Yeah.
See, this is much harder to do in a crucible than it is when I just get up and wing it.
Yeah, because the audience is forgiving.
That too, and plus, oftentimes I have like a sketch of notes, but I never really know exactly what I'm going to say.
That's fair.
It's kind of
built in, is it?
Yeah, kind of built into that. I'll start this again. But to me, I think what's hanging me up probably a little bit, and probably overanalyzing it, but I hear the way that I'm saying it, and I'm like, yeah, I really don't like that. I don't like the way I'm saying that. Because I think if I'm on the other end of this, what does that mean to me?
So maybe just talk to me and don't think about the broader audience. Just talk to me about like what we're going to discuss. Like in every conversation that you and I've had, you've been very relatable. Like it's very easy to follow you, and I can even sit right here and you just. That
probably makes it easier.
It does make you smile more sometimes.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
And I'll give you like the head nods, like, oh yeah, because I follow along.
I find too when I go back and review my videos that I always critique it because I think maybe I don't have my eyes open enough and things like that. And so I'm always like, gosh, that just looks so bad,
I wouldn't worry about it at all.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's another reason that like we moved to recording on my iPhone is because then I can have control over it, and you don't. And so you don't overthink all of the behind the scenes part. You're just telling me the story.
Yeah.
And if this gets stuck, we'll go back to that.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's, I may try it that way, and just thinking about, I was thinking about that earlier, think about it in terms of just telling your BQ that story over again. The only concern I have is, obviously it might go a little bit longer than, but with video, we can always make another run at it. So, all right, here we go. I'll give it a little pause here so we can break it. My name is James Wilder. I'm the Corporate Director of IT at S&S Tire. And today I'd like to introduce you to the digital future and landscape at S&S Tire. There's a lot of various components that make it up. And we would really like to, all right, I'll cut it there. So the purpose of the video today is to describe the digital vision and the various components that make it up. Also talk about the level of engagement we'd like to get from the CLT leadership team, which we think will be very instrumental in making this a successful endeavor for all of us. As a part of the video today, we're going to describe some of the existing components, some of the things that will be coming on in the very near future, some things that are already here, as well as some things that are planned for down the road. So appreciate your participation today, and
we'll talk soon.
Right. So,
that's pretty good.
Can we make an intro out of that?
Yeah, we can make an intro out of that. So, it's going to get very long very quickly.
Yes.
All of that is very good. But
Yes.
it's going to get, and we can leave that completely as is, and it feels very natural. But that's
the thing about the natural, though, is it can go very, very long.
Yeah.
So what would you suspect if we cut that into, is that about 30 seconds?
The way that you've read through it, I frankly would leave it. It's fine.
30, 45 seconds, maybe a minute.
I think it probably is close to that. And we're aiming for maybe keeping this whole thing under 5. So, and again, having a conversation and watching a video is not the same thing, but we want it to feel like it, but we still got to keep it just to the point.
Yeah. All right. So I feel good about that, because I think I can kind of cut it up. All right.
So if you've earmarked that, or you're just going to keep streaming?
I think I'm just going to keep streaming, if that's okay. And then we can just chop it up.
So,
and I'll give enough pause that we can kind of cut pieces and parts out of it.
I'm going to mark around.
And if you want to, I can download it and chop it up for you, or you want me just to download it and then just hand it off to you and you can chop it up?
It does not matter to me. If I take notes of the timing that we've got on here, that will also be my cue.
Yeah.
So,
does it just mean I look like I got a lot of fuzz on me?
It might just be that screen.
I think
it's the screen.
I think it's just the screen, but I was looking at it, I was like, man, I got all kinds of fuzz. My wife always beats me up. You got fuzz on you. All right. So I think I'll give a little pause here. Now, I'm going to start off kind of introducing it, and to introduce this concept, we'll talk a little bit about Google. And because most of us can relate to Google, and Google's kind of the place that we all start. And
so what I'd maybe even back up to a little bit further is to say, to give you all some context and a visual as we build out the future, I want you to think about how you use Google and what you know about Google.
That's good. All right. So we'll start there. Give a little pause here. To give everyone a little context about what we'll be speaking about today, I'd like for you to think about Google and how you use Google. In the early days of the internet, Google had a very high aspiration. A couple of college students decided that they'd like to have a place where they could go and access information in a very condensed way. A single place to go and get information that heretofore took a lot of different ways to I get lost in that stuff.
So that got a little long too. So the intro portion that you had was good.
Okay.
And maybe just go ahead and add yourself a pause after you get a good, like something that you like, even if it's a pause that we cut out and you go right into the piece that we like, that's fine.
Okay.
But just give yourself a little pause and then just get to the founder portion was good,
Mm-hmm.
but then it started to,
Yeah.
the extension of the cause of it was probably a little bit too long.
So just talk about maybe why I got started,
Yep.
that kind of thing.
So the piece that you had with, let's see, Google as your introduction was good. And then
Mhm.
say when Google started, it was two college roommates who, wanted an accessible place to capture information.
Mhm.
And like that piece of it, the way you phrased it was good.
Yeah.
And then just kind of give a pause there and then talk about the evolution. So like at its heart, it was this,
Mhm.
then it evolved.
Yeah.
And now we all know it.
Yeah.
So if you go, it started, it evolved, we all know it,
Mhm.
and there's more to come. That's basically our same story. And you can, that'll be your transition. That's our same story. At the start of this, we want a place that everything is accessible. It's going to continuously evolve. There is no end point. We want everyone to use it. We have lots of potential.
Gotcha.
That kind of language is very relatable.
Do you think I've got enough of a pause in there to just kind of take off from there, or do you think
it doesn't hurt to go ahead and to do it again? We can use the other one if we need to, but at least this will give us a guarantee.
So start again, just like with to give some context. Think about Google and all right, gotcha. To give some context for our video today, we'd like for you to think a little bit about Google and how Google started and why it started, and a couple of college students who decided they'd like to have a single place to go to access information. Also thinking about how that relates to our story today, think about how Google has evolved over the years. Eventually it grows into this sales and marketing tool, a place that we get email and all kinds of things. So it has definitely evolved from its origin of being able to have a single place to find information. In a similar way, that's what's going to happen in the digital landscape here at SNS. We want to incorporate a single place for people to go to get information and communicate with one another, to collaborate and share information. And from that, we want to grow. We want to grow into the areas of AI and have document management and be able to access things with HR and forms and be able to have access to training videos and collaborate and share information and data in all kinds of different ways that'll help us be a more data-centric company and a very data-supported company, so that the company can grow and begin to evolve as a company in the years to come. It's probably a little long.
That was good. You just got stuck at your ending.
Yes.
Yeah, you just
I always get stuck at the end. It's always the end. Can't close the deal.
but that one was good. We might have a few.
We're gonna have to cut a little there. Right.
No, I wouldn't worry about cutting.
Okay.
Like we'll try to keep it. If it goes a little bit long, we'll keep going long.
Okay.
You got that there.
So from here, you think maybe I touched on a few of the items. The document management, the AI, just bringing all this stuff together. Collaboration, I think, is a big thing. So should I get into the components now, do you think, or talk a little bit about I think here one purpose in that, maybe do we kind of re-encapsulate the idea of, so we've talked about the single point of management, data supported, ease of use, serves all users. Should we talk a little bit about how that, it makes us more, there's, a couple pieces here about longevity, which talked about, evolution of the company, communication and security, or do you think we've sufficiently?
So what if you introduce this as a nice, really concise piece, and you say something along the lines of the reason that we are approaching, or the reason that we are structuring a vision for the digital future is to make sure that we're intentional about the way that we use data as a company. And if we're all on the same page and using it and working together in this way, we will accomplish these 8 things.
Gotcha.
And then you can just read off the list. And you don't have to go into them, because I think you can go into them in separate tech talks, as we, whatever we're going to call them, or even with the CLT in a little bit more depth. But if you just frame it as this is the goal, and we're going to accomplish these things, that's the piece that they need to know, and it won't get lost.
Okay. Well, let's give this a try. One of the compelling and key reasons for us to adopt this digital strategy is so that we're all on the same page and we're able to grow and scale together better as a company. We want to have a single point of entry so that everybody knows where to go to start their day and everything is accessible from there. We want to be data supported. We want to have something that's very easy to use and something that doesn't take a lot of training to be able to get users accustomed to. The ability to be able to exchange data to different kinds of systems and formats is certainly important, to give us some integration and connectivity with our dealers downstream and be able to connect all kinds of entities to grow sales and to communicate better with them in ways like the mobile app and having better modes of communication with customer service, and certainly in a way that's very secure and data sensitive, because that's a key aspect of our company's concerns. Behind all of that is terms like data lake and mass storage and all of the content management and these things, which are all very supportive of that. But in terms of what a data lake is, it's like any other lake. Things come into the lake and things go out of the lake. And that's really what we're trying to build here, is something that supports all the data that we need to be a very data-centric, data-driven company that helps us grow our customer base.
I know you can see me in the background. I think that's great. Did you not like that?
No, I did. I was just thinking, is it too long?
No, the only thing I'm going to try to do is, because you read through it as if it was all a component of it, is I want them to be able to see, and I can do that on screen. And
yeah, I was going to say, I can put up,
but
I could even do a little, what I was thinking about for this is I might do a little explainer thing where it kind of draws it out on the screen.
I think that's what's needed.
Okay, so I like that idea.
Like seeing visual structure as much as they like to hear.
I really keyed in on that, your suggestion on that, because I think when I watch videos, especially things like this that are more like intro videos, like Microsoft has all this new stuff they just brought on board in last week, and one of the things you see is you look at, okay, so everybody's making a video about it, but some of the most helpful ones are, well, what is this? Why is this terminology different? And they're like 3-4 minute videos, but they're very key bullet pointed like this: longevity, communication, security. I think I've touched on all these, so I think I can kind of put a, either a slide or a explainer thing overlay to that during that period of time, if that's okay.
I think you can too. I think for this next one, when we get into it, because I think that will help the audience.
Okay.
So when we get into this next one,
the components,
I would say at this point, I mean, when you can give them a number to count off with you, that's why that, like magazines say, the 5 biggest and the 3 largest and the top 2 things you need to do. Like, people follow that a little bit more easily. So if we can say, when we're thinking about the components that you'll see, we have 2 questions, and one is one is, what will users see and experience in the near future? And then you can talk to it, pause, stop, and then say, the second question we believe is, how will people, or the second question we know you'll want to understand is, how will users use it? So calling to that 1 and 2 breaks it up for them.
Gotcha.
Pretty easily.
All right, good deal. Let's give this a try.
Okay.
When we talk about the components that make up the digital landscape in future, there's 2 really big questions that come to mind. One is, what will users see and experience in the near future? How does it impact everyone's day? And what will that mean to, quote unquote, the average user, perhaps? The biggest piece of that is going to be, there's going to be a single place to go. Typically, at SNS Tire, we go to the IC. Now we're going to go to a place called SharePoint, and that's going to be the place that we all kind of start our day. Focus, Forms, Sites, Teams, Madden Co., all of these other services that we use will be accessible directly from that platform. So the biggest impact on a day-to-day basis is going to be, we're going to have a new single place to go to get all of our information and communication and documents and be able to share things with people. The second question is, how will users use it? It's going to be definitely one of those crawl, walk, run type mindsets where people will use it at a certain level, a very modest way to begin with, but there are a lot of different services and enhancements and capabilities. And as we grow as a company and add these other components, we'll find that we'll add a lot of complexity to that over time, but it will be things that'll be very useful and very helpful. But key to this, again, is always having a single place to go. It is the Google of SNS Tire. It's the place that you start. Anything that we want to communicate or share with users, we're going to direct them to this single place where everybody starts their day.
I'm going to challenge you to redo that second one. And it was at
question number 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the second portion of how will users use it.
Okay.
And before I get you to do it, I want you to think about more specificity.
Okay.
Because everything you said is accurate, but it doesn't give me a visual of what my day is going to be like or what my team is going to be doing differently.
Okay.
So if you can give me in accounting, me in customer service, me at the ops team, something
I
that
got
I
you.
can embrace initially, like of how I'm
And then
going
I
to
could overlay showing the SharePoint, actually going to one and doing it as I'm talking about it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, that would be good.
Interesting.
So just give them a little bit more specificity there. Not, you don't have to go into a ton of detail, but just something to latch onto that's a little bit more tactile.
Gotcha. All right. The second key question will be, how will users use it? For example, if you go to SharePoint, start your day, you might find some documents that have been shared with you from team members overnight. And you may have a review process where you need to approve certain pieces or parts of that and share it with someone else. You may want to write a quick message to somebody with the Teams integration to let them know that you've reviewed something or you've sent them an additional email. You can access forms for new hires, for example, and maybe you've got someone that needs some training and you're filling out an onboarding form or different. Is that too much?
Maybe. You just give them like 2 or 3 examples.
A couple examples.
Yeah, so okay. I liked where I struggle with using IC as the only example is that not everybody uses it. Not to that capacity, especially not the ones who are using this. So the IC is a good example. Teams was a good example. What is your ops people? What are they going to be doing? What's the first thing that they're going to see? So even if it's going to a centralized department SharePoint page that has, I don't know, RoadNet on it, that has Maddenco, some of the things that are highlighted, and then messaging for something that maybe customer service needs to see as a way to integrate more quickly between ops and customer service. And then, like you said, with your example for an approval process, that's great too.
Yeah. So should I maybe just do a little pause here and then add something that's more operational specific? Because there's a couple of key things for them really, and it has to do with like the different types of data we're pulling from, say, RoadNet and their variance reports, and all of that'll be there now.
That'd be good.
Okay. So maybe
try it one more time, and with your example, see if you can narrow it down to 3 examples.
Okay. So we talked about trying to remember what
the centralized SharePoint page for the department.
Okay.
You did talk about replacement for the IC, but I don't know that that's relevant if it doesn't have something specific. So maybe you just use ops as your example.
Okay.
So we're going to start it as a centralized departmental page. Let's use ops as an example. They may be able to see and then give your 3 examples for ops. So,
and that would be under this redoing this, how will users use it?
Yes.
You think? Okay.
Yes.
So kind of key and more maybe on ops as the example of that. For example, operations. Because I think Jay will be there, and I know he'll be a key player in that.
And everybody works with ops. Like
that's true.
Everybody works with. So anything that they're
what about like
on,
sales and marketing? Anything there with Brian and those? I mean, should we add anything in there with them? Like focus data and dashboards are going to be shared there, so you can start there. I mean, is that like the second example?
Yeah, I don't think they're your audience. That's going to be a challenge to incorporate.
Yeah, there you
Ops
go.
is going to be the one that's going to be.
Yeah, I see where you're going. For certain people, we're going to have to sell on this that are already sold.
Yeah. So if those are the examples, those are the ones that you'll draw in from the start here.
Yeah.
So,
I got you. All right.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
All right, so let's do that one again.
Let me think about how I want to verbalize that with ops. I know their variance reports will be big. RoadNet access will be big. Access to WISE can be accomplished through there. So I think that can be that'll be their 2 or 3.
Yes, that's 3.
Okay.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah. Another key question will be how will users use it? For example, for the operations team, they might start with SharePoint in the morning and begin to access their variance reports. That's always a key report in the morning. Be able to see information that's come in from managers overnight. Perhaps be able to go to RoadNet or Maddenco from there, or even the WISE system. So it provides a central place where you can kind of start your day, and all the things that you typically access through all kinds of different ways, you can access now through SharePoint in a single place to start.
Perfect. And perfect punctuation with that is a good break too. Hopefully I didn't talk over your break.
No, you didn't. No, not at all.
Nope, that's good. All right. So the next,
I like the idea though of selling those guys, because boy, Jay's a hard one to sell.
again, I go back to like some people are such visual, tactile, like it's hard to get people to buy into it.
And I can imagine, and this probably maybe at the dinner, this will be a good, maybe if you can help me remember this. I think one thing that Jay, and I give him a lot of credit on this, one thing that almost is usually, and it probably the first thing that'll come out of his mouth even when he watches this video is, how is this going to impact my managers and how am I going to train them to use this? Because he's always thinking about, as downstream people, is this going to get in their way? Because, ops is all about don't get in my way. I don't want is this going to be harder to use? Is it going to get my way?
So let's use that as the next portion for our role.
Okay.
And because the next piece of it is you're telling this team, the reason that we're making this video for you and you alone as the CLT is because you play a big role in how this will roll out. To continue with the ops example. Yeah. We know we have your support for things that we introduce, but you're thinking about how is your team going to use it. You're thinking about how do we teach it? How do we reinforce it? Right. That's what your role as a CLT leader is going to be for us here and why we're introducing it. And if you can even just say that you basically put the words that Jay says to you back at him. So you're speaking to your audience really directly. Excellent.
I like that. Because I know he and Paul are really big on SOPs, and that's going to be his first thing is I'm going to have to do SOP for this, and it's good. Yeah. Okay. Well, and I really appreciate that too, because when I'm thinking about this whole audience, I'm like trying to speak to all of them, and I'm thinking, from what you've said, there's a lot of people's already sold on this, so I don't need to sell it to the choir, so to speak. Exactly. I got you. All right, here we go. One of the reasons that we're making this available to the CLT team is, one, we know we have your support, and two, we need your support. Looking at operations, for example, I know some of the big questions are going to be, how are we going to use this every day? How are we going to train people on it? Is it going to get in my way? Is it going to slow down operations? And so we need your support and your ability to be able to communicate this to your operations people and managers so that it becomes an effective tool that helps them and doesn't get in their way and doesn't slow down the movement of tires across the enterprise. That okay? I
like that one. That one was really well said and nice and concise. Yeah. All right. So the next thing is to outline the discipline and how you and your team are, or not your team, how we as CLT are creating priorities, because everything can't be first. Right. And we want to make sure that everyone has an expectation that is consistent with the actual plan. So, and frankly, you could say that if you wanted to. I think that's direct enough.
Well, we're having an AI meeting tomorrow, Jared and Brooks, and that's, I think that was one of the most valuable things that came out of our prior meeting was the idea that has to be. I mean, it just has to be. And, we all wish we had unlimited resource could do all at once, but that's just not a thing. Right.
Before you go into this one though, this is a good way to tie back to the beginning. This is why I have that Google 95 versus now in here, is because we've already introduced it. We gave them a reference point to visualize as you talk through all of these things. So when you talk about the priorities and the expectation that the CLT is supporting the priorities, also invite them to think back to where Google started and where it is now.
Gotcha.
And I think everyone on the CLT has some frame of reference for that dynamic change.
Yeah.
And just letting them know it's going to evolve.
Yeah. Okay. All right. One thing that's extremely important as we look at this digital landscape is for all of us to be on the same page, for us to understand that, there has to be certain priorities as we create this digital landscape. It's got a lot of pieces and parts, and obviously all of them can't be first. So we have to really set those expectations. We have to define the deliverables, and we have to make sure that we're getting traction on them. Just like Google, as we talked about early in the video, this is an evolutionary thing. We'll start one place, we'll end up someplace else, but the future is definitely in front of us. It's a great landscape. It's going to make us a better company, but it is a marathon, not a sprint, and we all understand that. So we really need your support. We appreciate your attention today, and thank you very much.
Okay. So even though you thanked them there, and I think that's okay, you can either cut it or leave it.
Okay.
I think you need to wrap your close with what we're going to do on Monday.
Okay.
And what's going to be asked of them.
I got you. Yeah, and we can probably insert that in there. I think that.
Yep.
Okay.
And so our assignment for them is to basically think about what the digital future could be for their team.
Okay.
Because we need that voice of the employee component, and they represent the users more than anyone else. And so when they give you that feedback, it needs to be relevant, and they can't think of it. Well, they can't think of it 2 weeks down the road, but we want them thinking about it sooner rather than later. So come prepared to engage in a conversation.
Gotcha.
And just give them a challenge to think about between
that's good.
This video and coming to that conversation.
Right. So at the close of this video, we have an ask for you. We'd like for you to be thinking about the digital landscape and things that you might be able to bring to the table, ways that you can think about how that you might engage with your employees and help grow adoption. And so in the days to come, should I say before the dinner or whatever, or should we just say just in the next few days?
You can say just in the next few days. If you want to say before we come together as a group, anything like that's fine. That's fine.
So our ask for you is in the next few days, be thinking about the digital landscape, what you can do to help us. We really appreciate the feedback. We know we're going to need everyone's input to have a very successful rollout. So if you can think about that in the next few days, give us some ideas, some suggestions, come prepared for our next meeting to be able to talk about some of those things. And I'm sure we'll have a great conversation around that, and there'll be some really great ideas. But be prepared for a very active discussion, because there is a lot of pieces and parts of this. It's a very exciting thing, but we want to have a great conversation around that with each and every one of you.
I'm going to challenge you to do that one again. And I do want them to come prepared to think about how their teams are going to use it.
Okay.
But when I listened to you telling me that, it sounded as if you didn't have a plan.
Okay.
And that I was going to be expected to bring
what
I needed. And so we want them to know that we have a plan.
Okay.
We just need you to validate that we are doing things that are consistent and good for your team as much as some other things. So give them a little bit of confidence that there is structure there.
That makes good sense. In the days to come, we'd like for you to come prepared to talk about this digital landscape and what it might mean for your department. There's a very robust plan in place. There's a lot of pieces and parts that are already underway. There are a lot of components that are already coming on board, but we need your input to refine the process, to make sure that we're going in the right direction, to make sure that it's impactful and it's helpful. And again, most of all, not getting in anyone's way. So if you can do that for us in the next few days, we very much appreciate it. Better?
Yeah.
A little better?
Yeah, I think that was good. That was well said and a little bit more concise too.
All right.
How do you feel about it overall? Anything you feel like?
Oh, it always makes me sick, because I think I'm going to have to go and really chop this thing up. I'm so lame at this.
So do you want to just push it to me and cut it, or do you want to cut it? How do you proceed
Yeah,
from
I
here?
will. I will push it to you,
Okay.
and then I will maybe see how you kind of piece and weave it together, and then I'll start doing the overlays for it,
Okay.
like the 2-3
So-
places where we might like show the SharePoint where we're talking about it.
So what if you can go ahead and stop that, yes,
Let me
and
see.
send it to me, and I'll start cutting it so that we have the outline for it. And if I